government for assistance, saying they were left behind after Abuja declared its voluntary repatriation program complete. Nigeria concluded the evacuation program last Thursday, with the final flights departing Johannesburg carrying 305 returnees in total. Nearly 1,490 Nigerian nationals were repatriated. However, despite the official conclusion of the operation, some citizens say they are still waiting to return home. Earlier, Nigeria's acting High Commissioner to South Africa, Alexander Temitope Ajayi, assured nationals that plans to repatriate those wishing to return remain in place, although the process has been temporarily suspended due to operational constraints. Now, for the latest on the situation, we are joined on the line by Nigeria's acting High Commissioner to South Africa, Alexander Temitope Ajayi. High Commissioner, good afternoon, and thank you for joining us on Africa Update. All right, I'm actually supposed to be speaking to Dr. David Matsanga, who is joining us on the line instead of the Nigerian High Commissioner to South Africa. Dr. Matsanga is a political scientist and a conflict resolution analyst. Dr. Matsanga, good afternoon, and thank you for joining us after a very long time.
Yes, you better add another title. I was awarded a peace advocacy award by Oxford University on Friday for the world. So add that one on. Thank you very much.
Hello. Well, congratulations, Dr. Matsanga, on another title for you. Now, looking at what Ghana and Nigeria are calling for in terms of urging the African Union to address the issues around foreign nationals in South Africa, referring to it as Afrophobia. Now, both countries are condemning the ongoing protests against the undocumented foreign nationals in Southern Africa. Now, what do you make of the concern from these two countries regarding South Africa being Afrophobic? What's your take on this?
First of all, this is my first assignment as a peace ambassador, a peacemaker, an advocate for peace on the continent and in the globe at large. I am encouraging and I am saying African countries that have been affected must have what we call a consensus. We should not have condemnation of South Africa as a whole. We should isolate this as one of the few obstacles of the latest independent state, the last independent state on African continent called South Africa, which we liberated all from the yoke of apartheid. Therefore, we should not condemn South Africa. Instead, I have said Ghana, Nigeria, and other countries, Uganda, Kenya, Cameroon, people who have been forced out, Mozambique, Malawi, let's sit down as Africans instead of going for other retributive justice against South Africa. The obstacles, challenges that South Africa has gone through since 1994 maybe have not been resolved. Maybe there are challenges that the government is facing. So as Africans, I've called upon President Mahama, my good friend, who listens very well to some of my advice for a long time, even when he was not in government, to cool down the temperature and say, let's discuss this as Africans. I am not in for the policy of total condemnation of South African government.
And how will this impact just diplomatic relations between South Africa and the two countries, that's Ghana and Nigeria? And also just looking at some of the back and forth that we've seen from ministers, with a Ghanaian minister addressing issues on social media, and then having the South African minister also responding to those issues on a public platform.
That's why we editors, like some of us, are being awarded these awards to go around in Africa, to go in such a place now to start doing what we call constructive engagement. My role now as a person for peace, I would like to cool down both of them, The South African Minister of Foreign Affairs and the Ghanaian Foreign Minister of Foreign Affairs should stop social media in exchanges that could escalate into difficulties. And that is why I will be moving with speed to make sure that both of them are friends. All of you are friends of Dr. David Matsanga as a Pan-African hero. I don't want to sit down and see one African country taking the other to court, especially more so in the ICC and other institutions, which actually, again, we do not like to be part and pass off. So this is my role that I'm going to take, and that role I'm doing it. And I ask South African president, who knows me as I speak today, to calm down and listen to some of the statements that I am writing to cool down the situation. Everybody in Africa has been affected. The people have been pulled out. Their properties have been taken. Fine. But how do we find a middle ground? How do we find a talking point so that South Africa and Ghana and other countries, Uganda, Kenya, Cameroon, all countries in Africa were affected, to sit down on the table to avoid isolation, contamination that could escalate the troubles that we see on South Africa. Remember, South Africa has got one big enemy across Atlantic Ocean watching, which could turn on terms of political science that I know. Trump would say, as I told you, there was a genocide in South Africa. He would use it to dismember this nation. So African countries, listen to me. Ye, don't start condemning your brother in South Africa. Let's help them. This has happened by a few isolated goons. Let's help South Africa to sort the mess on international scene at international level. I see the danger coming, where Mr. Trump, as long as he's in power, and Elon Musk, they will make sure that they go and disorganize South Africa, and we have a bigger problem there.
Dr. Matsanga, South Africa had said that it would approach the African Union, and now this call by Ghana and Nigeria for urging the African Union to address the issues that are being faced in South Africa by foreign nationals. Now, what do you think needs to happen? You've mentioned that they need to sort of take a step back and address the issues as the leaders of the country, of the different countries. And also, what would happen if South Africa is isolated due to this fallout?
That's why I pushed and I told the African Union that the summit for this month can't work, because we would not have healed the wounds. The summit of this month was pushed to October, so that we find the time. Some of us are going to run around the capital cities of Ghana, in Accra, in where, in Yaoundé. We shall be in those capital cities behind the scenes as peacemakers to make sure that the temperature cools down. Then we come in the African Union Summit, Heads of State Summit, Extraordinary Summit, that will take place sometime in October. If it had to take place, I wrote and I insisted to the African Union, this summit will be very bad if it takes place. People are still angered. People are angered about their nationals being killed, mistreated, beaten up, their properties taken, told to leave another African country. But that does not, mistakes don't make one good. You know what it is. Two mistakes don't make a good thing at all. We can't do them twice. These people have been removed. We can now condemn again South Africa isolating. And that is my stand. And it is a neutral stand for both sides to cool down. The cooling point is now, between now and October. A solution must be found out by the African Union. Unfortunately, as usual, Lulu, African Union is dead.
What is the solution to this current migration challenge that the continent is faced with?
The current migration challenge is everywhere. The migration you see in the Mediterranean Sea, we are told to not to go back. In the Indian Ocean, we are told restricted. In Atlantic Ocean, Mr. Trump is sending us away. So what Africa needs to do is go back and sit down, come back to the drawing table, like China did some time back, 40 years ago. Unfortunately, we have lost an ally of international law. In my friend, I'm a few meters away from 10 Downing Street as I speak right now. I had come because of this interview. I came back, but I had gone there. I'd been invited to see Sir Stammer go away from 10 Downing Street, a good ally of international law. So we have lost that one. Let's look at this panel beat Andy Berman to make sure that he looks at Africa as a center of equality, not as a center of the oppressed, to be there so that immigration is solved on the African continent. We need to go back to drawing table, Lulu. We need to say China 40 years ago was the poorest around the world. Today, China gives us loans. What did China do? Until African leaders start thinking like that, all these immigration issues will keep on coming. It's not only South Africa. Every country has got rules, colonial rules. Everywhere you go in the continent of Africa, you need a permit in order to set up a kiosk. A kiosk, imagine, you need to have a permit if you are not from that country. So we have a problem. And African problem is that one. We still have ethnicity, tribal enclaves that were put on us by colonial boundaries. Therefore, why don't we say, why do we have these colonial boundaries today? Don't blame South Africa alone. There are so many other countries that have even worse rules. Morocco, for example, I wouldn't like to, I did not watch this World Football Club until Morocco got out. It has taken over somebody's territory. Why are people not talking about Morocco? Why do you want to isolate South Africa when you cannot isolate Morocco that has taken over the territory of Sahara and it has eaten it, and it is eating it, and you allow it in African Union. Therefore, if that is the case, let's stand above all this as leaders of this continent. We are going home. If some people don't talk, if Mbeki is not talking, tell Mbeki Matsanga is talking. If there is nothing you are going to add or subtract from my age. Never. You will not. Therefore, we must speak as a continent, clean this continent, bring it to sanity, so that people, the generation who are living behind, you younger people, must look after a continent that is worth. Some of these people running around with Facebook and Twitter and so many things, social media, is causing a problem now. Let's now be honest. Speak as Africans. Why did China 40 years ago went back to a drawing table? Today it is lending us money. Yet we Africans have money, have minerals, have everything. We have good weather, which is not in China. Why is it? Let's look at that. Africa needs to go back to a drawing table.
Dr. Matsanga, always a pleasure chatting to you. Thank you so much for joining us on Africa Update today.
Thank you very much, Lulu. Let me rush down to say the final handshake. Unfortunately, to my friend Sir Keir Starmer, we shall work back. We shall remain a united Labour Party that delivers international relations, that does not violate rules at all. And that is the one thing Starmer did for us. He refused Mr. Trump's stupidity. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Matsanga. That's Dr. David Matsanga, political scientist and conflict resolution analyst, joining us on the line. It is 23 after 12 Central African Time.
Africa World Hour with Mposi Tole.